And
Hey, let's
live.
do it. And live. Yep, we're live. Uh hey everyone, I'm here with John and Stacey Wondra. We're live right now. So we're going live with Stacey and for those of you that know, I'm just going to give a little intro to everyone here tonight that's watching. I don't think we're going to have that many people tonight. This is kind of a private conversation among people whose voices deserve to be heard. But those that know that John and I have been following the Michael Vaughn case from the very beginning. So a quick, just for anyone that might be here that is new to the case. Michael, his nickname was Monkey Vaughn. He was 5 years old when he went missing in July 2021.
27.
And thank you. July 27th. Thank you for any timeline help you can help us with. Thanks. So July 27th, 2021 in Fruitland, Idaho. And we just John and I talked to anyone and this is a situation where Stacey's name has definitely come up and I'll tell you why. It was in 2022 of November. Am I right with the timeline there, Stacey?
Correct.
That police excavated your yard
Mm-hmm.
um, or where you were living with your wife, then wife,
Mm-hmm.
ex-wife, Sarah Wondra,
Mm-hmm.
and looking for signs of monkey, I believe. Correct me, okay? And they didn't find anything. You were in prison at that time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
On a completely different
I
charge. It
was
was a
I was
weapon.
in I was in jail, but the whole
Jail.
time,
Okay.
federal
Thank you for
holding.
correcting me. Okay, federal holding. Thank you for correcting me.
Mhm.
Jail, not prison. On a separate charge, nothing to do with monkey.
Correct.
And they excavated your entire yard, found nothing. You've never been charged with a crime.
Mm-hmm.
You've been released from jail.
Mm-hmm.
Your Can you tell me your marriage status with Sarah so I can keep it correct,
Uh,
fact wise?
Soon to be divorced. I filed for divorce when I was in Ada County.
Okay.
Um, the judge granted it, and Sarah, when they went to send out the paperwork to Sarah to get her served, she had transferred to prison the next day. So, um, I have to pay the court to get the paperwork sent to me, and then I have to have her served. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
but soon to be divorced, correct?
Okay. So your wife at this time, but separated. Sarah Wondra was arrested for failure to report
To
a death,
report the
but
death of the missing person, but was later um, relieved relieved of those charges.
okay. Okay. I think, that's and then here we are, and nothing's really happened with the case since.
Hmm.
Um, and so here we are. I figured, I was like, well, gosh, I should reach out to Stacey. You would know better than anyone. What the latest is. We all talked before, the three of us, and we kind of decided that maybe John would kind of lead this interview. Um, and we're definitely going to ask Stacey questions, like you've asked us to, Stacey, but we
Hmm.
also just want this to be a place where you can share. Um, for those that might be watching, again, this is a super private live with just some people we're kind of close to. Like, this is not like really public right now. And for those wondering, we've turned off chat. We just want to be able to just listen, and of course, we'll ask you questions too, Stacey, so you can form
Okay.
your thoughts. But for the most part, I'm going to kind of tune out and give you and John space. Does
Sounds
that work for
sounds
everyone?
good.
Okay.
Can you just a quick request, Lauren? Could you give him the I don't know. I don't know if you can you give him the I guess it would be my left side of the screen. Just so he's
Yeah.
featured so he's
Yeah.
featured more than I am.
Yeah. I'm going to stay around for a little bit longer to make sure
Okay.
things are cool. So I'll
Okay.
put myself on mute, but if you
Okay.
need anything, just tell me. I'll have my ears in.
Yeah. So I'll take it over from here. So I think, Stacey, I had mentioned to you earlier that it's important for me to kind of get to know the person that I'm talking to and I'm interviewing. And so you would be no exception to that.
Mhm.
If you don't mind me, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm not gonna ask you a single thing about the crime for quite a while, until I feel like I kind of have a better understanding of you. And
Mhm.
then once I feel comfortable that you've told your story, then I would like to use you as a guide to kind of walk
Okay.
me through the crime and the situation. And obviously, I don't honestly know a huge amount about this. Lauren knows a lot more than I did since she covered it from the beginning. But so I'm gonna rely on you to kind of help us understand or help me understand what's going on. And I know you were mentioned at a press conference. Why you came up at the press conference, those types of things. So,
Okay.
but let's just start. Let's start with the beginning. Like, where were you born?
Merced, California.
Okay, okay, and then how long did your family live there?
So biological parents deceased. My mom died in May 2003. Dad died before I was born of they both died of drug overdoses.
Okay,
Um, I
what
was
what do you mind me asking when you were born? I know from the
September
okay
12th, 1992.
okay, so you're 20. I mean, I'm
31.
sorry, 30. You would be 30, 31.
31. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your dad died before 1992.
Correct. I think he died in 91, late 91, if I'm not mistaken.
So very close, just before you were born.
Uh-huh.
Uh, okay. And you said they both died from drug overdoses.
Correct.
Okay. Did you? When did you learn that? By the way, when did you learn that your father passed away from a drug overdose? Did you
At
know
a
that as
later
a child?
age. No, at a later age, like when I could start understanding things. I think probably when I was like 8 or 9.
Okay. Um, and so your mom would have died not too. Your mom would have died after you understood that around 8 or 9. Your mom would have died not too long after that.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have been roughly 11ish.
Yeah.
What? So when I hear that, I'm sorry that happened to you. First of all, that's a tough road for anyone to experience. What I mean, how did that affect you as a child?
Um, it didn't really affect me a whole lot because I didn't really grow up knowing who my mom was. I just knew about her. Um,
Okay,
when I was younger, I guess this is just what I'm told by my adoptive mom that I have now that, she remembers specifically a time when I was a baby. I had brought in like a toy to my biological mom when I was staying at my grandma Jean's house, and um, my mom literally grabbed the toy and threw it across the room and pushed me on the floor. Um, so it just wasn't a good situation. She was not in a position to, really take care of me at all. She was just strung out on drugs all the time and alcohol and
yeah. Do you know just out of curiosity? Do you know? So obviously you mentioned alcohol, but what do you know? What drugs your mom was using?
I believe it was pretty much all of them. Meth, coke, heroin.
Okay,
I mean, you name it. I think she was on it. So, which
so
back
then
then I think they all had different names, but
yeah. So then in 2003 she died from an overdose.
mhm,
And what was this in California, by the way?
correct.
Okay. Was it in same area, Merced?
I believe so. I'm not exactly 100% sure. Modesto area, I think, or something like that.
Okay. I guess I'm asking because I'm curious to know if were you guys, because of the drug situation with your mom, were you moving around a lot?
No, I was adopted when I was 13 months or 17 months old. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And to my wonderful mom and dad now, or
Okay.
I still have today, and then Sergio and Tammy.
That's
And
those are your adoptive parents, Sergio and
mhm,
Tammy?
correct.
Okay. So, all right. So I made the assumption that you were with your mom during those early years, but I guess so your mom obviously must have been having serious enough drug problems to be in the CPS system so
Correct.
that you were then placed with an adoptive family at 17 months.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha. So your relationship with your mom would have been very limited as a child.
Very limited. She wasn't in a position to do anything or take care of me at all.
Okay. Gotcha. She saw you very little too, or did you see her a little bit, or?
I don't. I have pictures of her and my dad when they were together, but I don't. I don't remember ever meeting them. I was too little, you know.
Okay. You told the story about the toy, but that was before you
Yeah.
were adopted?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't ever recall actually meeting your mother then?
Mm-mm.
Okay. After you were adopted, you really never had any relationship with her.
Correct.
Okay. Um, what are your thoughts about that now when you think about it?
I'm very thankful for the family I have now.
Okay. And so tell me about your adoptive parents.
Mhm.
Were they in California then when they adopted you?
Yeah, my mom and Sergio used to own a restaurant in Escalon, California, called the Steak and Eggs,
Okay.
and I'm sorry, Oakdale, California,
Okay.
and that's how. So the way I was introduced to my adoptive mom, it's kind of a neat story. I was staying with my biological grandparents, my grandma Jean and Papa Wayne,
Okay.
and I was. They brought me in to have something to eat at the restaurant. They went to go have something to eat. I was too little,
Mhm.
and my I was kind of rambunctious. You know what I mean? I was always, you know, you're really anxious as a kid. You know what I mean? Like always had to be doing something.
Okay.
And my mom was the waitress at the time, Tammy. That's who worked at the restaurant, the owner. And she asked if she could hold me, and Grandma Jean and Papa Wayne were like, absolutely. And my mom held me, and I guess long story short, I buried my face in her neck and I fell asleep,
Okay.
and it just touched her. And that's at that point when they started talking about getting guardianship of me.
Okay.
Um, so that's kind of how that played out.
Okay. Yeah. And did they have any children of their own at that point?
Um, they had, yeah, they had Megan and Miranda, but they were super young. They were young. But I'm the youngest out of them.
Yeah. Okay. So you have two. You have
I have a lot of adopt or a lot of or I have, let's see, biological side. I have Bradley, Randy, Caleb, and Jocelyn, and me. So there's 5 of us biologically. Adoptive side, it goes Sergio and Tammy had Megan and Miranda,
okay.
and then Sergio and Tammy got divorced when I was 8 as well. And then Jerry came in the picture, who is her her husband now,
Okay.
and he had 5 kids of his own. He had Jake, Jerry, Jennifer, Mike, Ronnie, those 5.
So after when Tammy remarried Jerry, they had 5 more kids in addition to. So you have.
Oh, no. Jerry had 5 of his own kids before he got married
Oh,
to his mom.
okay. So when Jerry married Tammy, he brought in
Mhm.
5 kids from previous relationships, or
Yeah,
maybe.
but they stayed in California.
Okay. When
We
you
were
say.
living in Montana. We
Okay.
moved up to Montana. Sorry, I guess I should have got to that. We moved up to Montana when I was 3 years old.
Okay. What was that, to open a restaurant up there, or what did?
No, just to move to another state because my grandma and grandpa, who on my mom's side, my adoptive mom's, her mom and dad lived in Montana.
Okay. So, all right. So you're in Oakdale. You're born in Merced. You're in Oakdale for a period of time. You're adopted at 17 months. At 3 years, your Sergio and Tammy move to Montana. Then they get divorced when you're 8. She remarries Jerry, who has 5 kids. He's in
Correct.
Montana.
Correct.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about your relationships with your adoptive. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but your adoptive siblings. So Megan, Miranda, and then Jerry's 5 kids. How did you get along with them?
It was a rough go around from Megan and Miranda. Jerry's kids, I didn't really have a lot of interaction with because they were already grown, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. But Megan and Miranda, not so great.
I was needy as a kid. I developed a lot of behavioral issues when I was younger.
Okay.
I required a lot of attention. My mom sacrificed the girls to make sure to and sacrifice her work and everything like that, to attend to me and to attend to my needs. Um, I was diagnosed at a young age. I was tested 4 different times neuropsychologically
Okay.
for mental disabilities. They call it neurocognitive disorder now.
Okay.
But I was diagnosed at a younger age with fetal alcohol syndrome, Asperger's or autism is what it was called at the time. Uh, intermittent explosive disorder or IED,
Okay.
bipolar.
Okay. Okay.
And then that was when I first got tested. And then growing up, I got tested when I was like 10 or 11.
Okay. So
Again, the current test.
that was all like before the age of 10.
Correct.
I just quickly, I assume, maybe, were you medicated for the bipolar?
Yeah, they had me on medications a lot when I was younger.
Okay.
If I remember right, it was like Adderall, Strattera, just some other psychiatric meds. I don't lithium and
Right. Okay. So some of that sounds like.
Sorry, guys.
Did some of that might sound like a little bit of ADHD, but maybe the bipolar kind of coincides with some of that.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good now. Sorry, I'm
That's
stuck
okay.
getting over my cold.
Yeah. So the You were saying that, so that was before age 10, and then you were saying around 11 you went in for more testing, and were there more diagnoses to come after that?
No, it was just it actually got progressively better. When I first got tested, my IQ was 57.
Okay.
The
Before 10,
second,
you mean?
I was tested. My first time getting tested was like 4 years old or 5 years old,
Okay.
and then my second testing was like 10 or 11, and my IQ went up to like 60. Same diagnoses. Uh, I got tested again in 2000 and like 2018.
Okay. So recently.
I'm sorry, not 2018. I'm sorry. 2014 when I was in the group home.
Okay. And what do you remember what they said?
Yeah, I mean, I tested when I was in the group home. My IQ went up from 60. The last IQ was at 60. Then it went up to 70, and
Okay.
then um, the most recent test I did was back in October of last year, and I think my IQ jumped up to like 75 or 80.
Okay. So, what was the testing that you had done last year?
Where'd that come from? Sorry, save that. Send that to me. Uh, I'm sorry. What was the what?
Yeah, what were they? What were they? Why were they testing you in October of 2023?
For my court hearing, my federal court hearing, my lawyer wanted to get a current neuropsychological evaluation
Okay.
to help with my court hearing.
Was it? Were they looking at competency then, or what was the issue?
No, not competency. They just wanted because they wanted to just determine whether or not um, just to see, if I'd be fit, if I'm fit for prison, if I had to go or whatnot. It was just, um, and my lawyer just wanted to get something up to date because it
Okay.
had been a few years. So,
Okay. Gotcha. Tell me about you mentioned intermittent explosive disorder that was diagnosed when you were pretty young. What has that continued? Has that stayed with
no,
you over the
no,
years, or no?
it's no longer a thing. Even like they don't have that diagnosis.
So that was dropped later. That was dropped like in your
Like the
teenage years.
second time I got tested, yeah.
Okay, so at age 11, were
hmm
you as a child then? Were you? It sounds like you had some anger.
Yeah, I was angry as a child, and a lot of it prevailed when my parents got divorced,
Okay.
and I wasn't ever like violent. I mean, I was violent, but I was violent in a different way. I wasn't ever violent against somebody, but I would destroy my own stuff or like break CDs or, sometimes break pens or throw things against the wall, just I would snap.
Okay. But that did not continue past age, let's say
No,
11.
no.
Okay.
I was in group homes from 11 to 23.
For what reason?
Uh, just because that I needed help and I knew I needed help and it was just becoming too much on my mom, and my sisters and you know, it was hard for me to go to group homes, but in the long run I don't regret it at all.
Okay.
It made me who I am today.
Yeah. And how would you describe who you are today?
A fun, caring, energetic, loving, loyal, um, optimistic, um, adventurous. Um, you know, just have that ambition, that drive. Just I don't want to stop. I want to keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Let me go back a little bit to your childhood. Let me go back to your relationship with Megan and Miranda.
Mhm.
It sounds like it was a little strained
Mhm.
because of all the behavioral issues you were having.
Correct.
Could you tell me a little more about that?
The behavioral issues?
Well, just what the group homes, where it
Um,
sounds like you were acting out a little bit at times.
mhm. I had a lot of self-interest behavior issues. Like I would swallow. Um, I would threaten to swallow staples and
Okay.
just stupid stuff. Just I was really troubled as a kid. Like I had a rough time. Uh,
Okay.
um, not really too much to discuss, honestly. Like I spent lots of time in different group homes. I think I've been to like 4 different group homes, and you know,
Well, so let me rephrase my question. What when you say that your relationship with your two
sisters.
sisters, right, was a little I forget the word, a little rough was the term you used.
Yeah.
What was causing that? Why? I mean, if a lot of your
Oh, I
behaviors
see
were
what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So it was literally because I was taking away from my sisters a lot because my mom was having to focus so much time on with me, and it
okay,
was taking it away from my sisters.
yeah,
You know, like I was saying, my mom sacrificed a lot for me. My sisters sacrificed a lot for me, and I say that in the sense of like, you know, uh, they just lost out on a lot of attention, a lot of time with mom,
okay,
and that's what caused a lot of stress.
gotcha. So would I, if I describe that as a bit of resentment, would that seem to make sense?
Correct.
Okay.
Put on the alley.
What's that?
Uh, my buddy's showing me a picture of a love seat on freebie alerts that's for free, and I was like, man, I could just put that in the alley and go crash.
Hopefully, it's a nice love seat then.
Has definitely been used.
Um, what about your parents? Both had substance abuse problems. Obviously, that's
What's led to my disabilities.
okay. But did you have any drug or alcohol problems as a child or
I
teenager?
I no, I didn't start dabbling. Like when I say dabbling, I say it lightly because it was light. Like I would, I've tried meth a couple times and I've messed with some coke or weed, but I've never relied on it as a daily ritual. Like it was, very, very seldom, very, very, very seldom, and it was like once in a blue moon, and if it was available and it was at a house party or something I was at, and this wasn't until after I was 23.
Okay.
After I got out of the group home was when I kind of started falling into those tracks, which I'm out of. You know what I mean? I'm not in those at all. Um,
Yeah.
but there's times where I dabbled, but it's never caused any substance problems for me. No,
So you didn't really use drugs or alcohol as a
no.
child or teen? It wasn't until you said
20,
23?
correct.
What about if I asked you about traumatic experiences as a child or teenagers? Do you recall anything along those lines that kind of stand out?
Nothing traumatic.
What about any type of bullying or violence?
Um, I was in special ed my whole life, so there
Okay.
was a lot of getting bullied in school and stuff like that, and I got in a lot of fights, but I've been suspended from school or not expelled. I've never been expelled, but um, it was never like it was just hard to deal with a lot in school,
Okay.
getting bullied, but eventually I learned to stick up for myself.
Give me a little more details about some of the bullying. Do you remember?
Just people calling me a fat fuck and just teasing me about me being retarded because I'm in special ed and just stupid stuff like that.
Okay. And so were they picking fights with you or were you kind of
Oh no, they were picking fights with me
okay? Do you remember when that started?
early on, like elementary school or like middle school, I would say.
And through high school?
Yeah.
On that issue, just quickly, did you graduate from
Uh-uh.
high school? No.
I
What?
made it to 11th grade.
Okay. And then what happened there?
Uh, I ended up transferring to another group home, and they didn't allow me to continue schooling. They only let me get my GED, and at that point, I just wasn't focused enough to get my GED. I kind of have given up.
Okay.
So
So you never completed the GED then? You just like you said, you just kind of gave up?
correct. When I got older and was in like the Montana Developmental Center in Boulder, Montana, I took the GED test, or I started prepping for it. Um, it's called the Montana High Set, is what it's called, high school equivalency test.
Okay.
Um, I passed 3 of the 5 tests, and it still stands. It never goes away. So if I ever went back to Montana, I could get it.
Okay. So just quickly, how did you get from Montana to Idaho?
I got married.
Okay. Was that to Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
When did you marry her?
April 13th, 2018.
Okay. And did help me understand, did she live in Idaho? Is that
Yeah, she lived with her mom. She was on parole.
did you that did you see did her being on parole as a problem or did that
Honestly, not really. I thought it was love at first sight. So it was, the first time I thought I knew what love was.
okay? So you really didn't think about well what first of all, what was she on parole for? Let me ask that. Maybe I should back up a little bit.
um, Rob won,
Okay.
and she stole $40 in gas in Oregon, and she had a Cutco knife in her car, and the gas attendant saw it and called the cops and said that she had threatened him with a knife, and um, which nowadays I could see it happening. Back
Okay.
then I wouldn't, but
Say more about that. Would you say that Sarah has some history of violence then?
mhm, yeah.
Okay. Is that
Sarah was very abusive towards me.
okay?
Throughout our marriage, I mean, she's been unfaithful to me countless times, cheated on me. Usually they say it's the guy that does it to the woman. Um, as far as abuse and everything else goes, it was complete opposite. I cheated on her when she cheated on me. I never initiated the cheating. Um, it was Sarah and I were very toxic for each other down the road in our marriage. Um, there was times where she would punch me or she would spit on me or she would kick me, and there was times where she would hold me down on the couch with a butcher knife to my throat, and uh, she at one point held me uh, at gunpoint with a loaded 12 gauge shotgun and held it to my chest, and it's just been that was, I guess, probably the most traumatic thing I've had to deal with.
And that would have happened
20
after you married her?
20, about 20 of 20.
2020? So
Mhm.
most of that occurred in the same year?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, that sounds pretty bad. What did you do in those situations?
My stupid ass stuck with her.
Well, I mean, did you try to protect yourself at all, or what?
No, I cowered down. I cowered it down because I'm not a wife beater. I'm not a woman hitter. You will never at any point ever find me hitting a woman ever.
Okay.
And or like, I'm a big guy. You know what I mean? And I'm capable of doing a lot of damage, as I've done in previous fights with people. And I just knew what my strength was, and I would feel horrible if I hurt her. Yeah, she's done a lot of wrong to me. She's been abusive and, aggressive and violent towards me, but I know my own strength, and I know if I ever hit her, I would do a significant amount of damage. And I just can't see myself doing that. I'm just not
Okay.
that person.
And and I presume that this has something to do with the reason that you're seeking a divorce?
Correct.
Okay. Was Sarah your first significant relationship then?
My second longest.
Second longest?
I was engaged for 5 years,
Okay.
from ninth grade until sorry, Courtney was my second longest, and Courtney, or my first, she was my first. Sorry, my first longest, and she and I were together. She was in eighth grade, I was in ninth, and we were together all the way up until 2011.
Okay. What ended that?
I went to group homes and started talking to other women just because I was unhappy. You know what I mean? Well, I wasn't unhappy, but we were so far apart. I was just stupid, and I wanted to dabble. I was young, you know what I mean, and I didn't really take into account a sincere relationship.
Okay. Right. So kind of a first love type situation.
Correct.
And how did she treat you?
Really good. Like, we were amazing together. She was never abusive. She was never mean to me. She would always go out of her way to do things. She was a paraplegic. She was in a wheelchair.
Okay.
But I believe, if I remember right, the way we met, she approached me. I was walking out of the high school, and I remember she approached me from behind, and she goes, "Hey, hey, you!" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, and then she introduced herself, and I introduced myself, and we just kind of clicked. We exchanged phone numbers, and you know, went on probably 8 to 10 dates, and then started, you know, indulging in a relationship.
Right. Okay. Do you communicate with her at all these days?
No, I don't talk to her.
Was her disability did her disability occur?
No, she was born with it. She was born with spina bifida,
Okay. Gotcha.
which is where you're born with your spine outside of your back.
Okay. What about others? Were those pretty much Sarah and Courtney were pretty much your two
Yeah,
significant relationships?
correct.
Would you say those were your only two significant relationships?
Long lasting. I mean, there's a few, you know, relationships. They weren't really relationships. They're like friends with benefit relationships.
Yeah. Okay. What about talking about medical issues? What about have you had any you mentioned the fetal alcohol. Have you had any major medical issues that have affected your life at all?
I mean, I've had 3 eye surgeries, had an appendicitis or a appendectomy.
Okay.
Um, other than that, no. I mean, I've been pretty healthy. I played a lot of sports as a kid, a lot of sports,
Okay.
and was always into hunting and fishing and loved the outdoors and basketball, baseball, football. I mean, I was an athlete. I loved playing sports.
Did you play sports in like junior high and high school for the school teams at all or
Correct.
okay. What would you consider to be your favorite sport?
Football.
Okay. Did you play for the high school team?
I played. I didn't make it high school football. I tried out, and then I just kind of got over it. Um, just kind of wasn't into it anymore. But when I played in middle school, I played defensive lineman, nose guard, and kicker.
This would have been in Montana, right?
Correct, Belgrade.
Okay. Staying with the medical issues a little bit, what about have you had any recent mental health diagnoses at all? I know you mentioned
No,
some from childhood, but what about current?
no,
Nothing.
no.
What about non-diagnosed? What about any mental health issues that you see might be applicable to you, such as I don't know, like depression or anxiety or that kind of stuff?
I mean, I have depression every now and then, but and anxiety sometimes, but it's not what it used to be.
Okay. So tell me what it used to be much worse
Hmm. Yeah,
when you were a child, when you were, you
much
know,
a kid. Yeah.
kid. What when you think about that, what do you think what happened? How did it improve for you?
I mean, group homes really helped a lot. I actually became a positive role model to and an influence to a lot of the clients there where they were, reliant on me to, and could count on me to help them through struggles and stresses that they were going through.
Okay. Um what about how do you think in general you do with stress, coping with stress?
Significantly amazing.
Okay. What could you could you talk a little bit more about that?
Um, just I handle my stress a lot better than most people who have a hard time with stress. I know my biggest coping skill for stress is music.
Okay.
I get up every day and I usually turn my YouTube premium on or my Spotify and I'll just vibe with music. It's literally makes what makes me get through the day.
Okay. You mentioned some of your strengths earlier. What what do you see as some of your challenges, though? Maybe some of your weaknesses?
I haven't really thought about that, honestly. I
Okay,
try to think positive most of the time.
okay,
I think a big part of my weakness would probably communication.
alright.
Um, it's hard for me to open up to things, especially going through what I did with Sarah. She kind of shut me down a little bit, like made myself shut down, and like I've been talking to this one girl that her and I really like each other, and one of the things that we agreed upon, is communication with each other, and you know, I told her, it's going to be a challenge for me because of the way Sarah treated me, and she's understanding. She knows how to work with it, and she's working on that herself too.
This is someone more recent that you're talking to?
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha. Did you I presume that you don't have children, right?
thank God.
Okay. Was that something you talked about with Sarah?
Yeah, she wanted to have kids, but I couldn't perform and have. I mean, I could perform, but I couldn't have kids.
Okay. What could do you, I know that's kind of a personal thing. Do you can you elaborate on that? You don't have to, but just
I bull rode as a kid. I was stupid and hung out with a group of buddies, and we all went to his dad's uh, ranch, and um, I was basically dared to hop on a bull, and I did.
okay.
And I got bucked off the bull, and the bull stomped on my balls pretty much, and
Gotcha.
crushed my left nut. If you want to be
Okay.
specific,
So you're not you have
I'm infertile. Correct.
yeah, okay. How do you feel about that now?
Thankful I didn't have kids with Sarah.
But what about I mean, what about in general though? Do you
I mean, it sucks because I do want a kid, and I wanted a kid, but it's hard because I know that as a felon you can't adopt. So it's been a struggle. But
okay.
again, it's consequences that I have to live with. It's my choices and nobody else's. I'm the one that did the damage.
Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
Uh, High school, so 14, 15.
Okay. Um okay. I mean, so what just in general, how do you relate to children?
I absolutely adore children. I have nieces and nephews. I think I have like 21.
Say that again. 21 nieces and nephews. Is that what you said? Okay.
Yeah,
And tell me about your relationships with them.
just I mean, when I've hung out with them, I've always they loved me. I've always been that loving uncle. Um, they enjoyed hanging out with me and spending time with me, and they would fall asleep with me, and it was amazing. I have a passion for my family, and kids in general. Like
Okay. Yeah. What when you say 21 nieces and nephews, I presume you're talking about
all together
right with so Jerry's some of
between Jerry's kids mostly. Yes.
Jerry's kids mostly. Okay. And
Mhm.
Jerry's kids would have been a little older, I
Oh
assume,
yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So you do well with kids.
Very well.
What quality what quality do you think you possess that makes allows you to be so close to children?
Honestly, just my heart, my compassion, I guess, how caring I am, how interactive I am.
Okay. Let me shift gears a little bit. I heard you mention in there that you said that you had a felony. Is that related to your recent stay in
I have,
jail?
I have, I have numerous felonies. I have probably 6 or 7 felonies.
All right. Can you tell me a little bit about those?
I mean, nothing severe. My first felony was my federal felony. That
Okay.
was in 2019.
What
April,
happened there?
a false statement during a firearms transaction. I made a mistake on the background check when I bought my gun, and the ATF picked it up and indicted me. I spent 9 months in federal holding, and then got 9 months credit for time served and a year of probation.
Okay. And so that would have been, let's see, 2019. That
April
would have
4th.
put you in Idaho.
No, Montana.
Oh, you were still in Montana. So you married,
Correct.
but you married
Sarah.
Sarah in 2018. You didn't move to Idaho until later.
Correct.
Okay.
I didn't move to Idaho until 2020. Here's how it kind of went down. So I got indicted by the feds in 2019 on my
Okay.
first charge. I did 9 months federal holding. Never made it to prison. Got sentenced April 4th, 2019. So I was initially picked up by the feds in 2018, July
Okay.
of 2018. So
Okay.
I was in federal holding from July 2018 all the way until April 4th, 2019.
Okay. What type of, just out of curiosity, what type of a firearm were you purchasing?
Pistol.
Pistol. And what was did you have a purpose for that?
A
For the
sidearm. A sidearm for hunting.
Okay. So tell me about that quickly. What you mentioned hunting earlier. I mean, so
Mhm.
hunting is something you enjoy.
Oh, grew up hunting. I still bow hunt. I love bow hunting because that's the only thing I can do.
Okay. When did you start hunting?
Oh, young, probably. I took hunter safety when I was 12.
Okay. Um, and just tell me a little bit more about that. Were there specific um, hunts you were going on, or what were you
I
hunting?
elk, deer, birds. I mean,
Okay. Mostly in Montana then?
Montana.
Okay. So you have the federal charge in 2019. It's a
Mhm,
felony, obviously that sticks, right?
mhm.
And then you said you had what, 5 or 6 others charges?
Yeah. Throughout the time of moving to Idaho, or yeah, Idaho. So after 2020, I acquired like 6 other felonies. I think it was about 6. But writing a bad check or negotiating a bad check, writing checks to places knowing I didn't have the funds in the account.
Okay.
Um, and then, so I got felonies for those. I did 2 or 3 of them. I have a Class C theft from Walmart. Um, I think that one actually turned out to be a misdemeanor. So maybe I only have like 4 or 5 felonies, but I can send you the screenshots of my background check that I did through Uber about a month ago, so you can see him.
Okay. Yeah, Lauren's not on here anymore, but I was going to say if you want to if you can shoot those, can you text her those or something?
You want me to do it right now, or do you want me to wait?
No. Whenever, just later's fine.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
It's not that critical.
Yeah.
There's no.
That's
I have
fine.
no reason to verify your. Your,
Yeah, good. I don't have a problem disclosing it. It's all public record anyway. So.
Yeah. Right. So mostly financial crimes, fraud.
Yeah, correct.
And some of those were felonies, some were misdemeanors.
2 were misdemeanors. The rest were. The other one was, I think, a felony, and then I have the 2 Fed charges. So
Was the latest charge? The latest charge was some firearm.
that was a federal charge.
Okay, and tell me about that.
I sold a. I mean, you would have thought I would have learned after becoming a felon not to have guns, but I've always been intrigued by guns.
Okay.
I'm just a gun person.
Why? What's intrigued you about guns?
I just love guns. I don't know. I love shooting. I love shooting things. The gun I sold was a 17 caliber HMR. It's a 22 caliber necked down to a 17. Velocity is like 3,500 feet per second out the muzzle. It's accurate up to like 200 yards, 300 yards at tops. I don't know. I had that. I had a Creedmoor, 6.5 Creedmoor. I've had an AR-15. I've had like 2 different 17 HMRs. Had an odd 6, 30 odd 6. Yeah, just different guns. I've always been a gun person. 22s. But
were those? So I assume most of those were pre-felony.
Correct. Except for like the 17s and the 6.5 Creedmoors and the AR-15. I mean, those are after felony, but there's a website that I use where you can buy guns without doing background checks. It's like a classified website.
Okay. What, and do you have any guns now then?
Oh, hell no. I would never fuck with a gun at the beginning of the day of my life.
Okay. So tell me about the latest felony you had. Was some violation.
Felon in possession of a firearm.
Okay. And what year was that?
2023.
Okay. And you were obviously convicted. You said that you were never put in prison though. You were just held in jail.
Correct. Federal holding.
And okay. What was your sentence on that?
21 months with 18 months credit for time served and 3 years supervised release.
Okay. So you're just starting your supervised release now or fairly recently?
In November 6th.
Okay. What are besides not owning firearms, what are some of the conditions of your parole?
No alcohol, no drug use, no associating with known felons. Other than that, I mean, it's super laid back. I mean, I could travel anywhere in the whole state of Idaho without getting permission from the probation officer. Whereas, like, if you're on state probation, you can only travel within your jurisdiction that you live. So Ada County is a jurisdiction. Canyon County is a jurisdiction. Federal holding, you have a jurisdiction, but you're not bound to stay in that jurisdiction if you want to travel. If you want to leave out of state, then you have to get permission from your PO. But you can literally travel anywhere in the whole state of Idaho at any time, or the state that you reside in, without getting permission.
So you can go, in other words, like you said, you can go across county lines.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. And where are you now? Are you
Ada County.
are you in Fruitland still or
No,
somewhere
Boise.
else? I'm sorry.
Boise.
Boise. Okay. Gotcha. And I think you mentioned the other day that you
Staying at
are
a shelter.
what's that?
Staying at a shelter.
Shelter. So not like a halfway house,
Uh-uh.
shelter, homeless shelter.
Correct.
Okay. Um, on that issue, what is there? Are there some stipulations about employment in your
Probation conditions.
conditions? Yeah.
Yeah, there is, but my PO's understanding because I've literally been red flagged from employment. I've been red flagged from hotels
Okay. What? Why have you been red flagged?
because of the accusations that have been made against me, the allegations.
Okay. Well, let's dig into that a little bit.
Here it goes.
Here it goes. Yeah.
Blast off.
Do you feel like you've provided a decent understanding? I feel like I know you a lot better from just asking you some questions about your history. And do you feel like that you've given us a good picture, or
Absolutely.
are there some things I've missed here that you want to tell us about yourself before we
Nope.
get it? Okay. Um, yeah, well, so I don't know. I'll let you take the lead here. Just tell
You
me
start.
about tell me about this whole situation.
So you start with the questions. I'll just answer.
I think the easiest place to start would be with the date of Michael's disappearance on July 27th, 2021. So Michael goes missing, presumably late afternoon, early evening.
Mhm.
Um, I presume that I know you've talked about this some other places, but uh, I presume people have asked you about a timeline. Could you
Mhm.
maybe could you maybe reiterate some of that or talk about that?
Yeah. So I mean, July 27th was it's a normal day for us. We own a taxi. We owned a taxi company. I still own the taxi company.
Okay.
Um, just a normal day. Got up. You know, did our morning routine, breakfast, showered. Coffee. It's your average normal routine in the morning, and I know Adrian wanted to go see um his son or daughter, I believe, that lived in Nampert or Boise. I don't remember exactly. So Sarah and Brandon had taken Adrian approximately 11, I want to say, in the morning, and took him to his location. We went to Ross, did some shopping for Adrian. I think it was Ross. Because he
So
wanted to get
just
his
let me
kitchen
let me
cleaned.
just stop you for a second. So just to clarify that Sarah and yourself, obviously you're married, you're living together, but Brandon and Adrian are also at this point
Staying with us at the time.
they're staying with you in your house. So
Yeah.
explain that to me. Like why are they living with you guys?
So Sarah and I have known Brandon since 2020. I
Okay.
met Brandon before Sarah met Brandon. I met Brandon doing a moving job, I believe, through Labor Dave's. Labor Dave is a independent contractor out of Boise, which to my knowledge, I heard he deceased, but I'm not 100% sure on that. His name was David Fears.
Okay.
Um, that's how I met Brandon. Um, and then after I met Brandon, We kind of stayed in contact, after the job, and you know, Sarah and I were staying in a hotel in June when I got out of prison, in 2020. I got out May 4th, 2020, and we stayed at a hotel in Boise, pending uh, Sarah's parents' house in Fruitland, the one we were living in, waiting for it to become vacant because the previous tenants were moving out. So we stayed in a hotel for a month that our parents paid for. We stayed at the Airport Inn in Boise. And Brandon had come and visit us quite a bit at the Airport Inn and hung out with us and went swimming with us and stuff like that. And then that's how we met Brandon. And so Brandon came into our life and, was kind of down and out and looking for a place to kind of chill and hang out. And it turned into one night, turned into the, helping him out with the place to stay, then turned into the next night, and then ended up, just pretty much being like a on and off person that stayed at our house. Sarah and I were very firm believers in helping people.
Okay.
We would love to help people out. We're just Christian based. Always believed in giving the shirt off our back to help somebody. And so that's how Brandon came about. And then Adrian came about from a taxi ride that he called our line and wanted a taxi ride, claimed he was living behind a dumpster in Caldwell and all this other nonsense or whatever. I don't know what's the truth or what's not the truth, but gave Sarah a sob story because I didn't pick him up, Sarah did. And this is way before Michael went missing, by the way, like early July. And Adrian gave Sarah that sob story about living behind a dumpster or whatnot, and said he was looking for a place to live for a little bit at the time being, that he had unemployment income from New York, is what he said.
Okay.
And I were like, okay, because he was like, I'll pay you guys like $250 a week. I'm like, okay, And so Sarah called me and was like, how do you feel about this? And at that time, I told Sarah, I was like, I don't really think it's going to be a good idea because, we don't really have the finances to help. I mean, to support somebody, like he really has to be serious about paying his way. And it was just it was a shit show pretty much.
Did Adrian, so Adrian moves in after you meet him on the taxi ride, early July 2021. Does he pay
Correct.
you rent or not?
It became a hassle. So he said he was getting paid like that next week. Ended up being a situation where his money didn't come through or some shit like that. And he's like, well, I'll get you guys double next week. And then so next week he only paid half of what he was supposed to pay on the double. And it just became a progressive issue, which is why we kicked him out in August, or like late July or August. I don't remember exactly, but you know, that's how Brett or Adrian came about. He was initially just a taxi ride and, you know, needed a place to live. And I was opposed to it, but Sarah convinced me and was like, let's just try to help him. I was like, fine.
And why did you guys kick him out? And so he was only with you for a couple months?
Correct.
And why did you end up kicking him out so soon?
He just became a problem. He was problematic, a lot of drama, and Sarah was doing things behind my back with him sexually. And I found out about it, and it's become a significant issue, you know.
Okay. So were you the one who kicked him out then?
No, Sarah did.
Sarah did?
Yeah.
Um, even though I think you just kind of said that she was being unfaithful to you with him.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I told Sarah, pretty much told Sarah that he needed to go.
Okay.
So Sarah went and told him he had to go.
Okay. So
I initiated it. Yeah.
okay. I was trying to understand that. So you wanted him out, but you, for whatever reasons, you couldn't tell him directly.
It's just hard for me, you know. Like, um, I don't. I'm not mean like that, you know. But I just couldn't. I didn't have it in me, you know. So I told Sarah she needed to get rid of him.
Okay. So she's the one who went in and actually had to tell him and
Correct.
to leave.
Correct.
And how did he okay with that? Did he leave?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, well, thanks for helping me understand why or how Brandon and Adrian landed in your home.
Mhm.
Um, and the home, by the way, just to clarify, so the home belonged to Sarah's parents.
Correct.
They're the owners of the home. Do they still own that home?
Yes.
Is somebody living there now?
Now they're talking about renting it out again.
Okay. Um. So let's go back. Let's go back to the 27th. So you said you woke up, kind of a normal day. Sarah and Brandon are going to take
Mhm.
Adrian to visit his son in. Did you say Nampa?
Nampa or Boise, yeah.
And so, like, what time are we talking about with that?
About 11 o'clock, if I recall.
So they leave then at 11 a.m. and go do that?
Correct.
Okay, so they go with Adrian to
Mhm.
Nampa. That presumably leaves you alone at the house at 11.
Correct.
So keep walking me through it.
So, Sarah calls me about an hour or so later, says that there's a taxi ride that needs to go from Ontario to Boise. I was
Okay.
like, okay, I can do that. So I got ready and, um, shoes and socks and everything like that, and got in the Lexus that we had, and about 1 o'clock it took off.
Okay. So that would have been roughly one-ish, one in the afternoon.
Mhm.
How long does that taxi ride take?
It takes about 60 minutes to get from Fruitland to Boise.
So you're back roughly by 3:30ish.
No, I hung out um, in Boise with Labor Dave. I went and stopped at his house for probably, I would say, 20 or 30 minutes, maybe. And then made it back or drove back to Ontario. Um, I think I had to go pick up another taxi call that wanted to go to A&W in Ontario. So I took them, went to Ontario, and mind you, I have timestamps from me going to the A&W in Ontario. Just so you are
Right.
aware.
Yeah. I don't. Right. I'm sure you'll. Have you talked to? Have you been interviewed by the police yet?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So obviously they're gonna look at
Everything. Yeah.
stamps. So that the taxi call is roughly 3:30ish until like what 4?
say about 4:30 or maybe I would say probably 4:30 or 5 in that time zone. Got back. Sarah and Brandon and Adrian had stayed in Boise. He stayed the night with
Okay.
his baby mama. And so it was just Sarah and Brandon at the house. I got home. They were just hanging out on their phones, just doing their thing. And Sarah told me that Brandon wanted to go pick up his car from Cuna and needed it. And we had to tow it because he blew the spark plugs out of the cylinders.
Okay. So wait, this is Brandon's car wasn't working.
Correct.
So where was his car?
Cuna.
Okay. How is that? That's in the voice. Where is that?
It's about 48 minutes from Fruitland.
Okay. So by my calculations, this would put us around 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And you and Sarah and Brandon are going to go get his car.
Correct.
So you get in your vehicle to do that.
Yeah. So, yeah. We went and I grabbed the tow strap from the garage because we didn't have a trailer, so I had to tow it. Keep in mind, we had to tow it with a strap.
Okay.
So went to we got everything ready. Brandon, got all of his clothes ready, and because he had a bunch of clothes, dirty clothes, and so he got his clothes ready, put them in his duffel bag, and we went through the garage and I threw the tow strap in the back of the truck, and then we took off. We stopped outside the subdivision on the Southwest 8th and about Arizona Street a little bit before, pulled off and then mind you, Sarah's driving, Brandon's in the back seat behind me, and I'm in the passenger side.
Okay.
I'm a big guy, so it's hard for me to drive all the time. Was hard for me to drive for a lot all the time. So, and Sarah was a good driver, so I just let her do it.
Okay.
So we stopped, and I needed to put power steering fluid in the truck because it was whining super bad, and it was a known issue. You know what I mean? I hadn't put this. So that was the first time we used that truck that day. But usually every day we have to fill it up, and so.
Wait, say that again. Every day you had to put power steering fluid in it?
Correct.
Every day?
Correct.
Was there a leak in the...
Yes, correct.
Okay, so here, quick question. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second, okay, right? Because knowing that, wouldn't you put the power steering fluid in before you left for the trip? You're saying you had to stop.
Yeah, we did stop because it wasn't so. When you start the truck, it didn't make the noise right away. The truck had to warm up a little bit. But
Okay.
as we left out of the neighborhood or out of our subdivision is when we noticed, when we made the left turn outside the neighborhood, is when we noticed it was really bad.
Okay.
I was like, hey, Sarah, let's stop and let me top off the power steering fluid. It wasn't empty, but it was low enough to where it was causing it to whine. And I had known I'm a mechanic, you know what I mean? So I know, I know when something needs something. And
Okay.
that was why we didn't fill it up before we left, because it just wasn't it didn't act like it needed it.
Okay.
But
So
when we
even though you knew, again, like I'm thinking of what I would do in your scenario. Like okay, so my car is older and it eats a ton of oil, right? So I know like every month I have to put in, a couple quarts of oil, otherwise my engine's gonna blow up. So but I don't stop to do that. I'll do that, at home in the driveway,
Mhm.
like knowing that you
And
have this issue.
honestly, just to so you're aware too, I think it wasn't. It might have been more of like I just didn't think to put it in before we left.
Okay.
I don't think it was that I was avoiding the issue because I usually always kept everything topped off. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And I think it was more so like I just forgot to top it off. And again, you can't really tell that it needs something, it needed fluid until like made the whining noise, and it didn't do that until after it heated up.
Okay. So you hear the whining noise. You stop the truck. I'm just guessing on the time here. You can correct me, but you're stopping around maybe is it like 5:30 ish at this point?
Mhm. I think we left the house more so like 6.
Okay. So you're stopping the truck at 6:15 ish,
Correct,
6:20.
correct,
Okay, and you're stopping somewhere outside of your neighborhood a little bit, I
correct.
assume. Um, and how long does it take you to put the fluid in?
Mm, 10, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe a minute.
Okay, but I mean, you have to stop. You have to put the hood up, right? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, all together, I mean, I'd say maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, what? And so, I mean, I don't know the exact timelines here in terms of when Michael's leaving his home or goes missing or anything. I have no
Mhm.
idea. I know it's afternoonish, but um, you stop. Do you notice anything at that point?
Not at that point. I mean, I had Sarah pop the hood,
Okay,
got out of the truck, passenger side, walked around, open the latch on the hood, put the hood up, popped the power steering cap off, poured some fluid in it. I noticed there was a kid playing further down the road. Excuse me, sorry. But it wasn't Michael. I can tell that 100%. This kid was definitely older, probably 9, 10 years old, dark hair. He looked more like, excuse my language, more like a Mexican or like Hispanic. He just wasn't Michael's description at all.
how old was this boy that you saw? Would you guess?
I'd say probably 9, 8, 9, 10 years old. Definitely older, like more physique. You know what I mean? Like when more filled in, more defined.
Did you on that issue? Did you know some of the kids in the neighborhood?
No,
You didn't know
no,
any of the kids in the neighborhood?
no. We didn't hang out with it. Like
Well, I
we
mean,
didn't.
you
Sarah
might
and I,
you might see them or drive
yeah,
by
we
them or
saw them. Yeah, we see kids, but we never personally know. On a personal level, no, we never. Sarah and I didn't really hang out with a lot of the neighbors. We kind of stayed to ourselves. There wasn't like we didn't even, you know, when Michael Vaughn went missing, we didn't even know who Michael Vaughn was. Never heard the name, didn't know never know that name existed. Like, didn't even know who he was, didn't know his family, nothing. Never even been down the street that he lived on.
Okay, and so when did you learn that Michael Vaughn went missing, by the way?
When we got back into the neighborhood,
That night?
yes.
Okay. How did you learn that he was missing? That seems pretty quick.
Well, no, we learned it because we got back into the neighborhood later on that night, like 10:30, 11 o'clock. Um, maybe 11:15. I don't know. Um, got back and noticed that the whole neighborhood was swarmed with people.
Okay.
And I told Sarah to stop, and we stopped. Brandon was steering his car behind us. And Sarah and I were in the truck, and we stopped and rolled down our window and asked what was going on. They said a little boy has disappeared.
Okay.
And we were shocked. We're like, never even heard of this happening. I mean, out of the years the year and a half we lived at our house, none of this has ever happened. Never heard of it. And so it was a shock to us, like we're like, this is weird. This is supposed to be a secure neighborhood, Gotcha.
Right. Well, okay. So let's go back to your okay. Well, let me ask you that. I got to ask you this before I continue with this, but when you were leaving, assuming that again, I don't know the timelines here, but
Mhm.
when you're leaving around 6 or whatever and you stop around 6:15 or 6:20 for the steering fluid,
Mhm.
did you happen to see any suspicious vehicles, or
No,
did you happen to see any suspicious people in the
no,
neighborhood?
not at
Um,
all.
okay. You just saw this one younger boy.
Mhm. Yeah, it just
And
didn't look. Nothing was nothing was weird about it. Like he just looked like a boy who was just playing in the neighborhood.
do you remember
Um,
I mean, I know you were trying to, get your fluid in and move on, but I mean, it seems like this could be an important moment. Did you notice anything about the boy? Do you remember what he was playing with? What he was wearing? Anything like
I
that?
know he had like a couple toys, but it was in the yard. You know what I mean? There was nothing. There was nothing weird about it. Like it just seemed like a normal neighborhood boy, and no different from any other day that we were in. We drove or left our neighborhood. I mean, there's
Was
people
he
all over.
was he sitting down? Was he walking? What
No,
do you remember?
he was standing up in the yard.
Standing up?
Hmm.
Was he walking somewhere?
No, he was just standing around in the yard.
Okay, like by himself, I guess.
If I recall right, yeah. I mean, he was. I mean, inside a residential area. You know what I mean? Like his own. I assumed would have been his own home.
Was he? Do you remember where was he in relationship to Michael Vaughn's house? Do you remember by any chance?
Complete opposite side, like whole nother street.
Okay,
He was on 8th Street. Michael's house was on 9th Street, which you literally have to drive like 500 feet to the next street. You know what I mean? And I don't know where Michael's house is. Like I said, I've never been on that street.
yeah. Maybe I don't understand your neighborhood well, but so you prior to learning he was missing, you didn't know who he was, and you'd never ever been on that street before.
Correct.
Okay.
Hey, and
So,
a question for you. Can we uh my was wondering if we could end this about 9, if that's okay?
yeah, let's see. I think your time difference, yeah, like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to ask you.
Yeah, yeah,
My phone's got like 20% and I don't have a way to charge my phone, so
sure. Yeah, that's fine. Let's shoot for your time difference is throwing me off, but we'll shoot for, let's say, 30 minutes if
okay.
that
Yep,
works.
that's good with me. Is that good?
So, okay, so you change the steering fluid. It's roughly 6:15, 6:20
Mhm.
ish. You drive off with Sarah and Brandon to get the truck.
Get the
Um,
car.
I'm sorry, the car. What
Mhm.
what time what time do you think it is roughly when you exit town?
Mm, I don't know. Mm, I don't remember. I'd say probably maybe 6:45, 6:50.
Okay. And then you drive to you said it's like 40 plus
Cuba,
minutes.
correct.
So you get to the location of Brandon's car around
About
7:30ish.
yeah, 7:40, 7:30ish, yeah.
Okay. And then you tow the car. Well, you must have spent some time there. And then you return to the neighborhood around
10:30, 11 o'clock.
Okay. What? So you didn't. You obviously you get the car. You spend some time there, I guess, and then
Yeah.
before what do you?
Brandon washed his laundry at his mom's house
Okay.
because he didn't have any clean clothes at our house. Not that we didn't have a washer and dryer, but Brandon was very weird in a lot of ways. He liked to do things the way he liked, just like he liked to drink his water at his house more than he drank our water at our house. But he drinks so much water at our house, so I don't even know. That's why I said his stories don't match up. But he just ended up doing a load of laundry at his house and then went back. We'll cover this, touch it, but long story short, he went back the following day with Sarah, and so he could dry his clothes. But the night in question when we towed his vehicle back, he had brought in fresh clothes with him.
Okay. And did he? So did he repair his vehicle before the next or before the next day when
Oh
he
no,
drives back?
no, it wasn't even when it wasn't something that was going to happen overnight. Not at all. I mean, I literally was going to help him fix his car, and then I realized how much in pain in the ass it was going to be because would have had to go rethread all of the holes, all of the cylinder holes where the spark plugs were because he blew them out.
Okay. So just let's so tell me what you get his car back. What do you guys do that night? You get back around 10:30ish, 10:45, I think you said.
Yes.
What happens that evening and the next morning?
I was unloading. I was on after we stopped and found out that a little boy went disappeared. We drove back, finished driving back to our house, um, and we went to Brandon and Sarah went and looked for Michael to help look for him, and then I was at home detaching the car from the truck because we were taking up the length of the street.
Okay.
Good.
So you were Sarah and Brandon were out and about in the neighborhood trying to maybe locate Michael, and you were at home by yourself.
Correct.
And when did they get back? Do you remember?
About probably I want to say 12:30 ish in the morning.
Oh, so
They were out.
they spent
They were out for a chunk of time. Yeah.
they spent a couple of hours.
Yeah. They went out looking for him.
Okay. And what were you doing during that time? Do you remember?
I think I went and passed out. Honestly, after I got the truck and done and stuff like that, I, if I recall right, I probably fell asleep. I was pretty exhausted. But I know when Sarah came home and Brandon came home, and I asked if they were able to help find anything, and they said no.
Okay. Um okay, and then what about so you passed out, you went to sleep somewhere in there.
Hmm.
What about the next morning? What do you guys do the next morning? Do you remember?
Mm, I think I just stayed home, waiting for taxi calls. Sarah took Brandon to his house to go finish his laundry, and then they came back a few hours later, and we just carried on our daily routine.
Okay. Yeah, what time did they leave to go back to Brandon's house?
Early morning, probably 9 or 10.
Okay. Again, I have to ask, did you see anything, or Sarah or Brandon, did they see anything suspicious in the neighborhood or
No,
unusual?
not at all.
Okay. Um, what so I have to ask you about this because it's, there's a because I think it's really important, but I want you to help me understand it. Actually, so there was an article when Sarah was arrested and she was charged with the felony, the failure to report a death.
Mm-hmm.
She made some statements to the police in the probable cause statement,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a little confusing to me. So I thought I would just ask you about it because it seems really important. But Sarah says she tells the police, "quote I never murdered anyone." Um, she says these are direct quotes about what Sarah said.
The
"Quote
most highest God told me that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Most High God already told me who did it." Then she told the police, "quote Oh wow, wow, the Most High God just told me that Stacey was the one who killed him and buried him in the yard of the neighbor's house." What's going on there?
Sarah's completely psycho.
Okay.
I don't even know where I was in jail, so I don't even know where she got such a thing. It makes no sense at all. She goes off on tangents. Um,
Okay.
I literally think that she was living in a demonic state of mind. Um, I can tell, like I told everybody here, like I I don't even know anything about this little boy or anything of him or his family or anything.
Okay.
I know I would not ever do something like this in my existence on Earth. Like I can't. I don't even have a heart to get in a fight with somebody and hurt them.
So Sarah basically points the finger at you, but I think what maybe troubled me the most about this article is that you had also told police, you had given police a tip that Michael was buried somewhere in the yard. So it seemed like you kind of corroborated Sarah's story. Tell me about that.
No, so at that time I was being uh interrogated by the police, the detectives and everybody else, and I had told them at least they did probably 4 interviews with me, 5 interviews, and each and every one of those videos, or interviews, I literally told them, I do not have any information for you. I don't know what happened to this little boy, and I don't even know who this person is or his family or anything. I know nothing of him. And now keep in mind with my disabilities and stuff, like part of, and I'm just telling you how it works with somebody with fetal alcohol syndrome. But
Okay.
when somebody gets interrogated to the point of to so much pressure, when somebody gets with fetal alcohol syndrome gets put in an extensive amount of pressure,
Okay.
their automatic response is to respond with something to get them off their back, to get them off their case.
Okay.
So I made up that fable saying he was buried in the backyard, knowing damn well there was nobody ever buried in the backyard. But I made it that because I wanted to get them off my back.
So
I was tired of being.
yeah.
I was in so much pressure and like literally tears
Okay.
because I didn't have anything to give them, and they were like, "Oh, you know something? Tell us what you know." I don't fucking know anything. I don't have the funniest clue what you guys are referring to.
Okay.
And so that's when I came up with that fable and told him he was buried in the backyard. And I specifically, now keep in mind, they kept pointing out the shed. I never
Okay.
told him he was buried by the shed. I said if you walk out the back door of the backyard, if you walk straight towards the middle of the fence, he's right in the middle of the backyard. They
Okay.
specifically dug in that spot and found nothing. And I knew they wouldn't
Okay.
because there was no boy ever buried in that yard.
So just so I'm clear, when you make these points, just so I'm clear, and just so we can dismiss that you're involved in this at all, would you be willing to say that I don't know what the police have looked at? I don't know if they've gone through your house. I'm not sure what they've done, but would it be fair to say that there would be no trace evidence whatsoever of Michael Vaughn in your yard, in your house,
Absolutely.
on your porch, anywhere around your property at all? There should not be any trace evidence or evidence that Michael Vaughn was ever at your residence. Would that be an accurate?
Correct.
Could you confirm that, please?
Absolutely. I confirm
Okay.
that.
Okay, thank you. So, when you say that the police pressure was really intense, I guess I understand what you're saying about like the fetal alcohol for sure. It's got to be difficult. But I had asked you earlier about how you cope with stress, and you said that you were really good with coping with stress. So you contradicted yourself a little there. Could you just explain that then?
Like I said, my biggest key essential to coping with stress is music.
Okay.
I didn't have that opportunity to listen to music in jail.
Okay.
So when you're in jail, you have to find alternative ways to cope with things because you're confined in a space. And so I did not have the same coping skills that I used on the outs as that I could use in jail. And so it was very hard for me. Normally I'm very good at, like I said, coping with being under pressure, being under stressful situations, but when you're in jail, it's a whole nother ballgame. You don't have resources or alternative to to help you relieve stress other than deep breaths. And being interrogated the way I was, music wasn't an option. Taking deep breaths wasn't an option. As much as I did use deep breaths, it just wasn't. It wasn't um, sufficient.
What about I'm referring to this article that talks about the probable cause. Sarah, initially she said God told her what happened, and then she switched it to you told her.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like she's making kind of a direct disclosure that you told her that
No. You're misinterpreting the probable cause. God told her, the Most Highest God told her what happened, and then she said that God told her that I did it.
Okay.
It never said that I told her, because
Okay.
I would never be okay with something like this. And if I ever knew anything about this, I would never hold back. I would be the first person to throw them under the bus. Anybody that I suspected being a part of it, or even a hint of it, I would be the first person to report it.
Well, on that issue, so she also said, she kind of implied that I'll read what she said. So she quote identify she said instead, so I guess at the end of this, it appears that she seemed to believe that you knew, but it's not clear. And then she says that, quote, Adrian had been the one that had done it, and he was scared to tell anyone. Tell me about. So she actually, in the end, I guess she points the finger at Adrian. What's your take on that?
Again, Sarah's inconsistent with any of her statements. First, it
Okay.
was God that told her. Then she tried to say that I told her, which I never did. And then she
Okay.
said that God told her that I did it.
Okay.
And then she said that Adrian did it. So, I mean, you really think about it. I mean, what would your perspective be on it? You know what I mean? Like, there's no consistency with her stories. None.
Yeah.
You know, how do you go from saying one thing, then move to a next? Then, oh, well, this really happened. This is who did it. And then goes from that to Adrian. Like, there's no, there's a reason the police aren't taking her, um, her statement seriously. And if they are, it's beyond me, but
Yeah.
and I'll never know. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I have access to that. You know what I mean? I don't want to. Like I know I didn't play a part in this at all, or
Did
have any knowledge, or have any hint of knowledge.
what about Adrian? Could there be any accuracy? Could he have known
So,
something about this?
so at the time of meeting him, I wouldn't have thought so. When I got interrogated by the police, they told me that Adrian had a history of human trafficking. And
Okay.
now, mind you, apparently to some of the other YouTubers that have done background checks on him, they say they can't find any information saying that he has that history. Again, I'm just going off of secondhand knowledge from what the detectives told me.
Okay.
So if that is true, then I wouldn't put it past him. I just don't see how it's even possible because he wasn't even home that day. So that doesn't make any sense. So that's why I say I don't think he would have any part in it. It just wouldn't doesn't nothing clicks with it.
Wasn't he? Well, I know the three. So he would have been home for some of the day, right?
No, they left that morning, remember, to go take him to go see his kids. He stayed overnight in Boise or Nampa to go spend the night with his kid and his mom, his baby mom.
Right. So that
But
okay.
he
Yeah,
never came home that day.
I wasn't clear if he came back. So you're
No, he
saying
never came home that day. I stayed out that whole day and night.
okay. I mean, but I don't know. I'm just think outside the box here a little bit. Is it feasible that he could have had some involvement without you knowing? I don't know. I
I don't think so. Not if you're 40 to 60 miles away. You're in that time frame. And what's it gonna do? Like fly a magic school bus? Like, you
no,
know
I'm
what I
not I'm
mean?
not I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that perhaps he knew that Michael was in the neighborhood or had seen him around or he could I don't know how he could have planned it. I'm just saying
I
that
don't think so. I don't
you
think
don't
so.
you don't
No.
think Adrian
Had any involvement? No.
so you don't did he know Michael?
No.
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 Okay. Did Brandon know
No.
Michael? Okay. Well, I mean, those were some of my big questions. You said at the beginning of this that you kind of wanted to put your thoughts together based on my questions.
Correct.
Does anything occur to you now that have you had a chance to kind of formulate more of your thoughts since we've been talking?
No. Like I said, my story is the same story as you'll hear on any of the other interviews. Like, I ain't got nothing. You know what I mean? I don't have anything to do with this. Would never want anything to do with something like this. And would be the first to give away any firsthand knowledge or hints
Yeah.
that I was able to pick up. Like, I would literally probably I won't say kill, but I would allegedly hurt somebody really bad if I ever found out they did something like that to a little boy and I knew about it. I'm not okay with this at all. And I want justice to be served. And I want Michael to come home. I want his family to be at peace. I cry nightly hoping
Okay.
this little boy comes home for his family. I can't even imagine or fathom what they're going through.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's the most devastating thing I've heard in my life.
Yeah. So just from being in that neighborhood, have you thought about possible scenarios, or I mean, I don't. Have you thought about what could have happened? Any ideas on that? I don't know.
No, I don't. I mean, when you think of a little boy going missing, I mean, you think of 1,000 things, but I mean, nothing different than any other normal person would think of. I mean, how could it happen? When could it happen? What vehicle were they in? What time did this happen? How was it thought of? How was it planned? Just the general thought process of what would go through your mind.
Yeah.
And it's appalling, like it's sad. Very sad. I'm devastated. I hurt deeply for this family. So deeply.
Yeah. I agree. I think we all do. Any thoughts on any further thoughts on Michael? Do you think he's do you think he's do you think there's still a possibility that he might be alive?
Many could only pray and hope. And I do that this every day.
Okay. Any further thoughts? Any questions for me or
I
further thoughts?
just want to say thank you
Okay.
very much. And thank your wife too. Like, you guys are amazing people, and I know what you guys are doing, and just trying to let me get my story out there and to try to find peace for that family. And I want the same thing.
Yeah.
I hate seeing the hurt. I can't even imagine what that family's going through, and if I could give them the world, I would. If I could give them my life, I would.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. It's really important to us and our channel to hear from as many people and voices as we can get on here and different perspectives. And
Mhm.
so we're grateful that you could join us and tell your story and let us learn a little bit about yourself and to hear your side of it.
Absolutely, and you know what? If you guys wanna do this again tomorrow, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm willing to do some more talking with you guys, like,
Yeah. Well, tomorrow typically is our
like, your
normal
off day.
our normal show, but
Yeah.
let's think about things and let it sink in, and we'll just go from there. But how's your phone holding up? I think we're near our 30-minute limit here.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's dying.
Okay.
It's dying.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and I think we're going to end just in time here before your phone dies. So,
Thank you, guys.
um, have a good night and take care, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you, John. Or what's your
All
name
right.
again?
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, John.
Oh, okay, I
Pretty
did got you
simple.
right. Okay.
Yeah, you
Awesome.
got it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
that's right. It's not my
Alright.
name's not on the screen.
Do you want me to message, your
Yeah,
wife?
yeah, that
Okay.
works. That works.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Yep. Take
Alright, you all
care.
take care. You too. God
All right.
bless
We'll
you.
see you later. Okay.
Alright.
Bye.
Bye.